Сайн байцгаана уу хүнд үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр манай де факто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Oakland их сургуулийн Мичиганд байдаг Америкийн Рочестер хотод Oakland их сургуулийн профессор, инженерингийн профессор, доктор Барбара Оакли оролцож байна.
Барбара Оакли, Америк нэгдсэн улсын Мичиган мужийн Oaklанд их сургуулийн профессор. 1977 онд Вашингтоны их сургуулийг Словак хэл судлал, 1986 онд Вашингтоны их сургуулийг цахилгааны инженер, 1995 онд Oaklанд их сургуулийг компьютер инженерийн магистр, 1998 онд Oaklанд их сургуулийг системийн инженер доктор зэрэгтэй тус төгсжээ. Америк нэгдсэн улсын айрамд элч Калифорни мужийн Монтеро хот дахь Батлан хамгаалахын хэлний сургууль, Америк нэгдсэн улсын айрамд дохионы хэлний мэргэжилтэн, Тэнгисийн зэрэгт орос хэлний орчуулагч, Антарктидын өмнөд туйлын станцад радио оператор, Ford Motors компани дизайны инженерээр ажиллаж байсан. Learn How to Learn шимтэн суралцах номын хамтран зохиогч, Калифорни их сургуулийн зочин судлаач.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for having this time with us.
It's my pleasure.
As you are known about neuroscience and education relations, let's talk about the method of what you have discovered, because you have been a very famous author. You have introduced several interesting articles, the best in Wall Street Journal. Let's talk about the education. What is the substantial revolutionary change that had happened in our approach to education?
What I do is I try to convey the brilliant work of neuroscience and cognitive psychologists to help people understand better how to learn more effectively. A lot of times great research has been done, but it's very difficult to do this research. And so it's hard to know how to convey some of these key ideas. So that's where I come in. I don't like to say, oh, it's my research that is, what I'm doing is conveying really useful ideas from research. And they oftentimes, I hate to say it, but in education, you can have a theory that's dead wrong and it goes on for decade after decade. In engineering, and I'm an engineer, if you get a theory wrong, the plane goes down and everybody dies. So you fix it immediately. I wish it were like that in education and psychology, but it isn't.
Let's go to these ideas that proves that the way we were approaching to education is a little bit obsolete.
So, for example, constructivist approaches are very well-meaning, and the idea that we should be actively learning, engaging with the material, those are important. But what people forget is that teachers actually matter too, that we often need to have some declarative pathway that is hippocampal. In other words, some explanation, and that gets students started, and then they can actively work with the material.
What you would say about that teachers are even more important than we now understand. Why you are saying that?
We hear over and over again that everything should be student-centered.
Yes.
There's some truth to that, but we don't want to say that teachers don't matter. And sometimes that is the upshot of when you're focusing only on student-centered learning. It's a two-way street, good teaching and good learning.
So all these points you're raising, how much it is connected with the neurosciences?
Oh, so profoundly connected. The central idea is that learning involves physical changes in the brain as neurons connect with one another into clusters called chunks. And those are your memories that you access when you want to think about, solve a problem, or use a skill that you have. And we've been told for many decades, you don't need to memorize anything. You can always just look it up. But when I speak Mongolian, if I just use Google Translate to look it up, you need to have critical insights built into the structure of your brain through good learning in order to become an expert at anything.
So let's go a little bit deeper. When you say about neurons, when you say about the structure of those neurons, relations, the structure they have built already on the current level of your knowledge, then you have more knowledge, then you have more connections and a little bit different, maybe broken or extended structure, all structure, right?
You've got it exactly right. You learn something, you're making connections, but those original connections can be used to help you learn more. You can make extensions. You can use what you already know and through metaphor, use that idea and those neural patterns to more easily learn new things. So, for example, the flow of water, that's current. Well, you can use that idea of current in order to better understand electrical current, the metaphor of water and current. Does it break down at a quantum level? Of course.
Yes.
But that will get you on board with the initial understanding of a new idea. So metaphors they're intimately connected to great learning, and we now know from neuroscience why that is.
Well, let's go to this neuroscience. I understand that from students when they go from first grade to 11th grade, physically they would have the stronger or larger as you go from the course to course, bigger structure of knowledge in the brain. Am I right?
You are right.
Then let's go to beyond the education. The people with certain diseases like Alzheimer, dementia, tend to kind of forget, or they distract the structure when they have that kind of sickness?
That is so interesting that you bring that up, because there's two major pathways that we laid neural links in the brain. One is through the basal ganglia. That's how we get habits. The other is through the hippocampus. It's how we consciously understand things. That hippocampus begins to self-destruct in some sense with Alzheimer's. With Parkinson's disease, the basal ganglia is what's affected. So basal ganglia, when you have Parkinson's, it's more difficult to move and to do habitual motions. With Alzheimer's, it's more difficult to access knowledge in the form of facts and so forth.
So when the people forget, which happens to everybody, with age in particular, you don't remember things happened recently, but you rather remember well when it happened when you were a child. What is the connection in that?
So the hippocampus, so your working memory, that's what you're consciously aware of, sends information through the hippocampus and then goes into long-term memory. Now, if you know something already for a long time, you don't need the hippocampus anymore. You can access it directly.
You can pass it.
So that's why if the hippocampus is being destroyed, you can still remember old things, but you can't learn new things very easily.
Okay, very clear. Then you have brought the concept of lifelong education, learning all your life, right? And you have brought even certain approaches how to do so, right? And in that sense, the people as they go aging, then they know new knowledge, new learning looks like more important for your brain structure. Is it?
That's right. And here's what's going on. When you're having new neurons born every day, especially in that hippocampus. And whether you are 8 years old or 80 years old, about 1,400 or so new neurons are being born. Those new neurons have special qualities. They help you learn better and they help you feel better. But they can only survive, thrive, and grow if they hook into something that helps them to stay alive. It's like they're climbing out and they have to connect.
Yeah.
That connection happens through new learning. So when teachers are teaching or you are asking yourself to learn new material, you're actually helping yourself to not only learn better because you're helping them survive those new neurons, but you're helping yourself to feel better. And that's why when you start studying...
It's quite surprising, huh? You learn more things and you feel better. Well, that's the concept you have raised as about the teacher. If the teacher understands that stand of this neuroscience, it would be more helpful for students and teachers to learn more, to have more results.
Yes, indeed.
And which country or which universities you have been working? You are honorary doctor and honorary member of many societies and universities, where this particular understanding now is strongly accepted and used in practice?
Nowhere.
Nowhere? Why?
Sometimes I say moving a university is like moving a cemetery. You cannot expect any help from the inhabitants. Many universities are their schools of education are very, they've been doing the same thing for the last 50 years, and that's what they're doing. But it is visionary groups, and there are visionary groups all over the world. Here in Mongolia, for example, in Chile, in Taiwan, in Singapore, there's like bits and pieces are beginning to infiltrate into the educational system, but it's a little difficult because
maybe it's easier for a small country like Mongolia to do so. So you have been working with the National University of Mongolia, right?
Yes.
So what are their move in this regard?
Oh, it's so exciting.
Okay.
they are looking to, for one thing, they want to create online courses using really perceptive methods that make these courses exciting and interesting. And like we know a lot from the neuroscience of movie making about how to make engaging materials.
Yes.
Well, we can apply that to making good online courses. So they're creating, they're in the process of beginning to create courses for students to learn how to learn more effectively. And these, we're talking like 5-minute videos that teachers can use. And teachers don't have to be an expert, and you don't have to be like getting a classroom learning. You can just get a few little videos that give you these tips in Mongolian. And they're also beginning to the process of creating a set of 3 massive open online courses based on the neuroscience courses that we've developed. But they will be done in Mongolian with Mongolian talent, bringing up rich Mongolian traditions and heritage and showing how that is actually supported by neuroscience.
Looks like the classes will not be any more boring or almost sleeping for long. It's like exciting, like watching kind of you are being an actor in a movie or something exciting, right?
Exactly right. Wouldn't you just love to have like a teacher coming in some of the old traditional costumes from from Genghis Khan's time, and just exciting and innovative ways of surprising students and helping them to be excited about what they're learning, even as they're getting solid information.
Indeed, schools are to be the most learning time with big excitement rather than with big boring.
Yep.
And do you think it is at the university level only, or it is to be also at the elementary school?
Oh, they're planning to go right from elementary school up.
They mean in Mongolia?
in Mongolia,
Okay.
which is awesome.
It's a visionary.
And it's so easy. Some of these ideas are just so simple to convey. Like, what is happening in your brain when you get really frustrated because you can't
Yes.
understand something? We can explain this in simple ways that
So
children can
that
understand.
then this concept will require teachers understanding what's happening in the brain of a student.
A tiny bit. All they need to do is watch these videos with their students, and they're learning as well. So it's not like they have to
Are
become
there any
neuroscientists.
other countries or universities, people you know well, who are trying all these new ways and getting good results?
Taiwan.
Taiwan,
Yes.
what they do?
They created a massive open online course for learning for students and also for teachers. And both of those courses have won the best online course in Taiwan. And the results from teachers and students they love them. They feel like they get so much insight. So in Taiwan, what they've done, for example, with the online course for learning how to learn, they've taken our original course but added a similar amount of video footage related to putting it in a Confucian context.
Confucian, for example, for Chinese, or for the world, is a great philosophy. And they kind of combining the process of learning with that great philosophy, time-tested philosophy, right?
Yes.
Mongolians would have also time-tested culture, traditions, which makes us stronger, more united. So that would be, I think, another very nice element of learning, huh?
Absolutely.
And how do you see then once it's more effective, then many countries will do it. And how do you see the process? Will it take a long time? And how, as a result, we will have more smarter students?
Think about Deming going into Japan and introducing ideas of quality control.
Yes,
He was in the US and no one would pay attention to him.
yes,
He went to Japan and they incorporated those ideas and it made a tremendous difference.
yes.
It didn't happen instantly, but the country really understood the power of these ideas.
Yeah.
So all it takes is a country to grab the power of these ideas and then build on it. And I already see visionary leadership here in Mongolia that is quite unusual in its foresight, and it's you really have an appreciation for what is coming out of solid science instead of just we've taught this way for 50 years and this is the way we're going to keep teaching.
Deming idea was a simple Deming circle, yet it was a life-changing program. And the quality management in Japan had changed it completely.
Yes.
And that time, remember, China was at a certain point that, it's cheap, it's easy, broken, but it's okay. And Japan was the same, and then after Deming, it had changed it completely. Now Japan sounds as quality, right?
High quality.
High quality. And with your comparison, I believe Mongolians may have that revolutionary, say, changes in the way at least we teach our students.
Yes. I believe it.
Your famous book have been recently also translated into Mongolian, Shimting Surhui. And tell us about the book, please, how this idea came and how popular is it, how it is becoming so popular.
So my co-author, Olaf is a Norwegian. He and I gave a talk together in one of Norway's biggest auditoriums, and it was packed. People were flowing out the doors and the aisles, And his editor was there and said, you know, what you're talking about here is obviously so popular. Could you write just a little book about it, not a big one, that people can quickly read and gather some of these innovative new ideas? And we said, sure. Well, it's harder to write a little book than a big book.
That's true.
So it took us a little while, but my appreciation goes to the editor, to Olaf's editor in Norway, and that was how the book was born. And my co-author is just, he's awesome. So between the two of us.
How many copies were so far printed?
You know, I don't even know. All I know is that it keeps going broader and broader with more and more countries. And so obviously there's something...
You should know it's more income too.
I should, but I actually don't. I know that for my book, A Mind for Numbers, that sold over 1 million copies worldwide. So I can imagine that it's a somewhat younger book, but probably on that order. It's very popular.
You suddenly became a millionaire with your book only.
Well, you only get a small portion, but I'm a millionaire in my heart because of the riches of helping people to learn more effectively.
So out of all these years, you have been teaching at almost all the best universities in the world. What was the best, say, self-fulfilled or satisfaction of what you are doing?
When my husband helped me to create the online course, Learning How to Learn. And it was simply if you had asked a school of education to produce a course on learning, they would have given you 3 weeks on theories of education, 3 weeks on the history of education, 3 more weeks on how babies learn. And at the end, they'd give you something maybe you could practically use. And no neuroscience, because that's too hard. We flipped that completely on its head, give great neuroscience, but using intriguing imagery and lots of cartoons and fun, but actually very well grounded. I work with one of the top neuroscientists in the world, one of only 12 living human beings who's simultaneously a member of the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine in the US. And when my husband and I were filming this online course, I remember us looking at each other and going, why are we doing this? Because we don't even know if anybody's ever going to watch this. And now it's one of the most popular online courses of all time. So it was a shocker.
How does the online course work? Do you announce certain time for classes, or how does it work?
Oh, anyone can go in at any time. The course is called Learning How to Learn, and it's on Coursera. And you can just sign up for it, take it for free. If you want to get a certificate, you can pay a modest fee, but you can take it all for free, and millions and millions of people do.
Well, that's very revolutionary. It's very kind of you. So for people, they will learn more effectively. The time we spend reading, trying to learn, if it is more effective, as sometimes boring, but if it is in such a way with the knowledge of what's happening in your brain with your neurons, then it looks like it is really will produce a lot of people with more knowledge.
Exactly right.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge
it's
is power.
Empowerment of, at the national level, it's empowerment of nations, right? Young people. It's a very young nation. Mongolia is a young people population, the growing population. It's substantial. Will you come again to check what is happening in, in a few years in Mongolia
I would
too?
be delighted. I am so thrilled that President Badarch invited me here, and the there was great support for me to come, and I am happy to do whatever I can to continue to help support the visionary efforts I already see going on here.
The head of Mongolian National University, Mr. Barch,
Yes.
who was our rep, well, I wouldn't say rep of Mongolia, but he was one of the highest UN officer in Mongolia while working in the UNESCO. And I had the chance to interview him in Paris, and I'm so glad that he's taken that part of world efforts to make education better and more effective. And I'm so glad that he had invited you, and you are on my interview, so that many Mongolians watch. Would you advise anything to teachers at different level to use that approach effectively? There's many ways that one could advise teachers, but one of the key ideas is often teachers hear concept maps are the best way for students to learn. That's not true. Actually, asking your students to learn something and then see if they can remember it, retrieve it from their own mind. So don't just read it, mark it up, and reread it. That's a waste of time. Instead, make little flashcards with questions for yourself. And they can be high-level questions. For example, you could ask a simple question like, what was the date of the French Revolution? That's a simple retrieval question. But you can ask yourself or your students much more complex retrieval questions like, how would you compare the French and the Russian revolutions? That's the kind of thing where you're riding a bus to work or walking your way home, you can be thinking about. You will involve a lot of neurons to compare and to think.
Yes.
And when you learn, you said that the neuron has to find another connection with either your old knowledge or other neuron who's representing certain things, and they get hooked together. Right? Mm-hmm. Will there be substantial, this neuroscience view, substantial change of that new neuron when it is learning?
Oh, that's such a great question, because new neurons, we often think of making those connections, we're doing new learning, but forgetting is also important. Uh-huh. And what new neurons can do is also help you, they come in, they don't have any connections already. So it helps you take a fresh perspective on things because it's hooking in mm-hmm. and helping you to forget some things. Like, do you ever get anxious about something?
Yep.
Those new
you
neurons
should forget it, yes.
Can help you forget.
Otherwise you will die if you remember all your anxiety.
That's right. And so new neurons, that's part of why they make you feel better.
Very fascinating. And well, let's see how the National University works with that. And I think it will be exponentially distributed in this country, and hopefully our children in the remote areas will understand that one day. Huh?
Yes.
My final question on, well, people aging beyond this, say, pension age, etc. And it's the only way and the best way for them to keep their strength of thinking and moving is to learn, right?
Yes.
Only way.
But there's one other way.
Okay.
And that is to use action-style video games.
All right.
Those will, think about it. If you're looking at a game and then suddenly someone's popping out from behind a tree and they could, metaphorically
yes.
kill you,
uh-huh.
it actually sharpens your cognition as you're playing this game.
So action games could be good for older people.
Yes.
Amazing. And many people think that the video games are only for young people.
Right.
And it's even better for senior people to understand. Well, what an inspiring interview. Thank you very much for this great thoughts you have brought to this country and to the world, actually. And I would like to wish you good luck, and through you, those who are accepting your method, a lot of success.
Well, thank you so much. It's a privilege to meet and speak with you.
Thank
and
you so much.
are doing so much yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. За хүнд үзэгчдээ өнөөдөр манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор маш сонин зочид орсон та бүхэн харсан байх, уншсан байх доор сабтайтлаас. За энэ хүн бол энэ бид нарын боловсрох, юм мэдэх энэ арга дээр юм хувьсгал хийж байгаа. Алдартай эмэгтэй. Энэ Мичиган штатын Рочестер хотод Oakland гэж сургуулиудыг сургууль тэрний профессор, инженерингийн профессор юм хүн байна. Барбара Oakley гэж. Баярлалаа.
Хам богдуул хатан туулгын хөвөөндөх цэнгэг агаартай бүсэд байрлалтай. Хүүхдэд ээлтэй хотхны төлөвлөлт болон эвл амьдралын хэм маягийг эрхэмлэгч та бүхнийг King Tower апартментийн 5 дугаар элчийн орон сууцнд урьж байна. Амар тайван амьдрал, аян давтагдaltaй шүү.